everybody that it'll be recording. And so now Hillary has started the recording. Thank you. And we are asking everyone just for now to keep your microphone muted to minimize the background noise. There may be some opportunities to contribute through the chat, and we have other counselors online who are going to be kind of checking our chat throughout our time here. So with that, I'll go on to the next slide here. So this is the Professional Growth Day, and our topic here today is the second session of Boosting Resilience, Effective Approaches to Anxiety, Attention, and Motivation in Students. And those were topics that came to us as from a result of a survey to teachers of areas that they would like more support, that we are seeing a lot of students who are struggling with anxiety, attention, and motivation. And so again, we wanted to just basically provide some strategies, some information about what to look for, and just in general how to support our students through these topics. So and the bit.ly is going to be put in, I think it's already been put in the chat by Robin. Thank you, Robin. District-wide, the goal for all of the professional growth today, the essential learning, is to be kind of looking through the lens of data. How can we leverage data to design and implement high-quality instruction that addresses the diverse learning needs of every student? And so social emotional needs, we do have ways of looking through data and kind of evaluating that and trying to set some goals for that. So we'll touch briefly on that. I think it obviously that applies to other topics a little bit more specifically, but it is sort of the overall lens of what the district wants the essential learning to be for today. Our next slide. So you are in webinar session number 2, 10:50 to 11:30. These slides also kind of helped us keep on track a little bit, but we're just kind of checking in that we already had this same session 1. So if you're back again, it's going to be the same information, but different counselors. So I recommend that you hop off and find somewhere else to go. But you're, of course, welcome to stay if you'd like to. Okay, our next slide, please. So a quick introduction. My name is Molly Ingblom. I've been a counselor in Poway for several years at quite a lot of different schools. I'm seeing some familiar names and faces from past teachers that I've worked with, which is very nice. Currently, I am the counselor at Willow Grove Elementary School, and I'll let our other 2 counselors who will be speaking today introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hillary Ramirez, and I am the school counselor at Monterey Ridge Elementary School.
And my name is Matt Bibby, and I'm one of the school counselors at Design 39. 113 of us in here. This is a strong group over here.
Okay, I didn't need to know that, Matt. That's okay. Speaking of anxiety, that is the first part of our session. We'll be talking about 3 main topics today, as I mentioned: anxiety, attention, and motivation. As you can see from our bullet points, we do have a lot of information we want to share. We're going to try to pace ourselves and understand that it is probably a lot of information, some of which you may already have heard or know or do. And we recognize that teachers work really hard to support the social emotional needs of all our students. And we love being partners with teachers to support the students. So we hope that this gives some new suggestions or just reminders, or even just comfort in knowing that we're all kind of seeing these same struggles with our students, and that it can be challenging, and that it takes a lot. It takes a team to really support a lot of our students who have these kinds of struggles. So I won't go through all of that, but let's start off with anxiety here. You can go to the next slide. So just in general, when we're talking about anxiety, we're talking about that uncomfortable feeling that comes from trying to do something new or do something that you can't predict the outcome. It's really about anxiety is typically future focused. So it really has nothing to do what's happening in the now. It's a lot of those racing thoughts that are getting our students to think about worst case scenarios or what might happen, or very fearful. We know that it is anxiety and stress can also be helpful emotions, right? That fight or flight response, that's something that we need. If you're climbing a high tree, up to a high tree, and you feel like, oh, this is dangerous, maybe I shouldn't be up here, I'm feeling a little stressed, that's a safety response to say, I need to get down from this tree. So, sometimes helping students understand that it's normal to feel anxiety, it's normal to feel stress, and that sometimes that can actually be a motivator or help us to take action and to respond. I talk to students a lot about that feeling in their stomach, to kind of trust that gut feeling. If something doesn't feel right, if they feel uncomfortable, we want them to recognize that and to speak out. We're going to kind of talk about some facts about anxiety. I think all of us elementary counselors really have seen an uptick in anxiety, especially after COVID. It was there before, but it really, for a lot of our students in all ages, we really saw just such a heightened amount of anxiety. It's more prevalent for girls. Females are twice as likely to develop anxiety disorders than males, and 1 in 5 children will develop an anxiety disorder. So I think that's a pretty staggering statistic, and really, speaks to how this is something that we are all having to support our students with. 80% of children with a diagnosable anxiety disorder do not receive treatment. I think there can be a little bit of a stigma about being overly reactive or too emotional, or even being, babies, for lack of a better word, and not really understanding that maybe it is an anxiety disorder, or that that's what the student is struggling with. We have our poor little Charlie Brown there with horrible anxiety. You don't have to go back to him, but I just feel sad for little Charlie Brown there. Some other additional facts about anxiety: it is one of the most commonly diagnosed mental illness, affecting 18% of the entire population. And then we know it impacts our health in such a drastic way that, our sleep habits, our eating habits, our bodily functions are all impacted by anxiety and stress, and that doctor's visits, 75 to 90% of all doctor's visits have some kind of stress-related ailment. Anxiety left untreated can turn into a situation where it becomes more generalized anxiety, where it's really impacting somebody's day-to-day ability and day-to-day life. So fortunately, it is a disorder that is highly treatable. That there are treatments that students can get. There's support that we can provide in the school. So that's the good news there. Types of anxiety we typically see in children. Separation, I'll go through these quickly, but separation anxiety, I would say, is very common for our students, and that impacts their attendance, of course. Generalized anxiety disorder, social anxiety, students who are fearful of being in social situations, who don't want to work in a group, who don't want to speak in front of others. Specific phobias, panic disorders, obsessive compulsive disorder that would kind of come out in either obsessive thoughts or some kind of repetitive actions or needs to complete something over and over and over again to kind of soothe those thoughts. Trauma, post-traumatic stress disorder. We know for our students that trauma is seen in many different ways. And oftentimes we don't know the trauma that our students are coming with us to. But that can really, anxiety can really show up as a result of that. We know some students with, fire alarms, for example, can be a big trigger for their anxiety. In academic anxiety, we have some students who have test phobias, and then health anxiety. I've worked with students who are fearful of getting sick or being sick, or what would happen if they were sick. So a lot of different types that we typically see. I'm going to move over to what anxiety typically looks like. And as I'm kind of going through these, I imagine that you all could probably think of a student who in your class or in your past classes who would fit some of these descriptions. We know that emotional symptoms can look like a student who's excessively worrying. They're in constant fear of everyday situations. They could be irritable. Sometimes we see students who have big anger emotions come out, or big mood swings. They really act in a way that is overly angry or emotionally responsive, and that could be actually a sign of anxiety. We also have a lot of students who just have a lot of fears and avoidance of certain situations. So physical symptoms, these are things like stomach aches, headaches, sleep problems. This can be tricky, I feel like, in a school setting because we don't ever want to dismiss a student who's feeling sick. I think you have to work pretty closely with your health tech. My experience has been that health techs get to know students pretty well and they get a sense of maybe a student who is having a lot of stomach aches that could be related more to anxiety. I will say that it's real for those students, that they're not typically faking that stomach ache. I had an experience once where I had a student in my classroom who wanted to go home, was trying very hard to go home. Finally told him, look, unless you have a fever or you throw up, we're keeping you here at school. Like that's the rule. And, he threw up in my room 5 minutes later. So I'm not going to say that again, learn that lesson. But it was, it was a real symptom for him. And so, we're trying to figure out, is this a sickness? Is this something physical going on? Or is there something more anxiety related? So I think having that communication with your health tech, having communication with the family, are they okay with us keeping the student here, trying to maybe have them take a break in the counseling office instead of the health office? To work on some of those physical symptoms. I also personally have found that using some kind of distraction for those physical symptoms helps. When once they get out to recess, lo and behold, they start feeling a little bit better. Or oh, maybe we're going to play a game in the counseling room. They start to feel a little better. So, um, you know, uh, it's okay to allow that student to leave the classroom or to have a break. The goal for us as counselors typically always is to get them back into the classroom as soon as possible and as soon as we feel like they're ready to learn. So we don't want those students in our classroom all day just as much as you don't want the students out of your classroom all day. I think it's just a reminder that we want to be sensitive to those physical symptoms. Behavioral signs, I'm sure you can think of students who are always, always, always by your side, always wanting to hold your hand, always seeming to be your little shadow. Not wanting to go out for recess, maybe wanting to chat with you, or having just difficulty concentrating or complaining. We even have students who will have meltdowns and tantrums, and it becomes a big disruption in the classroom. Social symptoms are, fear of being judged or embarrassed, excessive shyness. Cognitive symptoms would be like someone who's negative thinking, a student who might be asking a lot of questions, wanting to know what the plan is. If you deviate from the plan, that might be very challenging or hard for them. They have that fixed mindset of they can't make a mistake. Sometimes we see perfectionism coming out with anxiety. I see that a lot with the girls too. Okay, continuing on. So just real briefly, we know that anxiety, there's, kind of a variety of things that can happen to cause anxiety, genetic factors, just that certain babies are born with less distress tolerance, that they just are not able to kind of handle distress as well as other babies. It's just their temperament. We know that life experiences and trauma can up people's anxiety. And then parenting styles. There's actually statistics that I have read that children of anxious parents are 7 times more likely to develop anxiety versus children of non-anxious parents. It's not any big surprise to anyone, and it's not intended to blame parents in any way. It's just a reminder that parents and caregivers and supporting adults, we have a lot of power in terms of how we can support our students through anxiety. Um, we can either reinforce the feeling and kind of play into the anxiety feeling, or we can try to take steps to challenge it and support them. So our goal as educators is for our students to be able to handle difficult situations, and it's never about preventing them from having the difficult situation. So we want our students out at recess, for example. So if we have a student who has social anxiety, never wants to go out to recess, the goal should be, how can we take steps? How can we support them? How can we give them tools to be out at recess? It would be almost a little bit easier and feel safer for that child to just say, okay, they never have to go out to recess. That's fine. But that really what we're doing that child a disservice if we do that. Okay, keep going. So some strategies that we want to share. Um, creating a safe and predictable environment. I think our students, we know that they really thrive on routines, and that school is a safe place for a lot of students. And so having those expectations, understanding that school is most days very predictable, and that we can reassure our students that even we had a little girl last week that was having some wind phobias, and that, we have plan in place. We have adults here to make sure that she's safe. We have, ways of keeping everybody, in the school safe. So kind of being reinforcing, understanding that it's a safe place. And then also having a place in your classroom where a student can take some time to self-regulate and calm themselves down. And we have some information about calm down corners and calm down kits a little bit later. Providing those clear, reassuring instructions, trying to minimize overwhelm, using visual support. Some of our students really like having those kind of visuals of their schedule, or even we've made little cards for students' desks about how are they feeling, identifying how they're feeling, and here are some coping tools that they can use, and kind of having that readily available to them. I know all teachers already do the structured breaks and movement breaks. The relaxation techniques, part of our second step lessons, we spend a lot of time teaching students about deep breathing, belly breathing. We're hoping that, TK on, that they've learned those skills. So reminding them of that, using mindfulness as something in your classroom is a great technique to kind of practice managing those emotions, modeling calmness and patience, and promoting peer support. I've seen such wonderful kindness and patience and understanding from other students. They really kind of get it for each other. And I think because a lot of students have struggled with anxiety themselves, that they have some empathy for other students. So, allowing that other peer to be a support is okay as well. Being able to emotionally check in, making sure that students know that it's okay to talk about their feelings, this is a classroom that we acknowledge that we all have strong feelings sometimes, and that we might need some support for that. We also want to encourage self-advocacy, that they're able to say, I need to take a break, or I need to go get a drink of water, or can I go talk to the counselor? Okay, I can go to the next. I have no idea what my time is. I'm sorry. So calm down corners. I know quite a few counselors have worked with their classrooms or tried to support this. We all kind of have a calm down space in our counseling room, but what we found is that over the years, it's really helpful for teachers to have a space and some tools in their classroom. So, there's some resources. We often use the zones of regulation to help students identify what color zone they're feeling, and then here are some ways to calm themselves down. Again, the goal is always to return back to a place where you're ready to learn, but that they might need some tools. And then this gives that autonomy of being able to say, you're in charge of your emotions, and you have this control, and it kind of takes that the anxiety is not taking over them. They have some ability to control it. So we have a lot of resources, and I would say, communicate, talk with your counselors. We are here to support teachers, to help provide these things in the classroom. That's a great tool to have. Okay, the next one. We just always want to fall back on the importance of making those connections with students, and how impactful it is to have that one trusted adult on campus, and how much influence that we do have on our students' lives, and that, feeling like that they have a person to go to talk to, or that's kind of there for them, can make a huge impact on them. So just kind of building those positive relationships with them. I put this in here, just in terms of the data piece. We know that anxiety impacts attendance. A goal for counselors in general this year is to work on attendance intervention. So, I would say that, that's one of the things that we can monitor, is their attendance improving? Are we working on them becoming to school on time? We have our Panorama survey that's for fourth grade only, but that does look at some of the social emotional topics like including anxiety. Our Healthy Kids survey, I happened to just pull up the PUSD results. And, two that stuck out to me is that we have 87% of our students who feel safe at school, which is a great, wonderful high number. But that also means that that other percentage is students who don't feel safe at school, or the 13% of students who are experiencing frequent sadness. So those were from our 5th grade students last year, the results of that. 504 plans, we have anxiety as a common diagnosis. If you feel like it is something where it's impacting their learning and they might need some specific accommodations, we can write a 504 plan for that. The same with RTI meetings or S-Cube meetings. I've seen where we've set some goals for the student that had to involve some behavioral changes in the classroom and supports. And so that's a great way to document and to monitor how that student's doing. The check-in, check-out is just a brief check-in in the morning, asking the student how they're feeling, giving them some reassurance, kind of keeping track of it, and then checking out at the end of the day. And that's just another way where either teachers or counselors can kind of document how that student is doing. Okay, I think then the next slide, we can just kind of skip over that one because I want to keep it going. But yeah, so before we get to attention, just, we just want everyone to know that, effective support for students with anxiety involves creating structure, supportive environment. We want our students to feel safe and empowered. Using combination of clear expectations, emotional validation, coping strategies, and individual support can really help students reduce their anxiety. Regular communication from teachers, parents, counselors, health tech, I really think that's the best way to kind of come up with a plan to help support students who are struggling with anxiety. So I'm going to move it on to attention. Miss Hillary.
All right. So we are going to talk about attention next. And just like most of you, right, in a training today, probably we all are on Zoom and probably multitasking as well, which amen to you. I know for a lot of us that have to maybe go to a district training or something like that, sitting for us is usually not an easy task. And so kind of thinking about how we as adults also function and where that can kind of over to our students. So I think one common thing that we think about with attention is we automatically in education go straight to ADHD. And through our learning, we really realized that attention is general for all humans, and there are 5 different types of attention types, and that we all kind of can navigate throughout the day. And then ADHD is more of a mental health condition that impacts someone's daily life and more of a mental health disorder. And kind of so when we think about students that have ADHD, we understand more so that it's impacting their everyday experiences. But attention really is the cool thing, is that we can kind of see what it looks like individually or task specific. So we're going to go through types of attention. So we have focused attention, where a child or student's attention is focused more on visual or auditory information. Sustained attention, when children can attend and focus on a task for a continuous stretch of time. Oftentimes, this looks like concentration, vigilance, or focus. Divided attention, when children can multitask, focusing only part of their attention on multiple items at the same time. Selective attention, when children can attend to one specific task while filtering out other distractions or stimuli around them. And then alternating attention, the ability to switch between tasks or parts of a task, and it requires mental flexibility so that one task doesn't affect the performance of another. I would also say recognizing that these attention types are also very age specific and brain development specific, right? So understanding that alternating attention is probably seen more in our 4th and 5th graders, understanding that that's how they're able to be flexible and go from one task to another. When we see a lot of our kindergartners or 1st graders, like that focused attention is something they're still learning how to do. Looking at those auditory and like visual reminders, right? If you have toys out, you have the visual picture on it so that they can really understand what we're focusing on. Just like anything in 2025 education, there's a lot of challenges that we face with servicing all students on our campus. So we, as the counselors, as your support team, understand large class sizes are a huge challenge, diverse learning styles. student energy levels, their confidence and social skills, anxiety, perfectionism, societal and family expectations. We understand sleep, trauma, behaviors in classroom, and brain development are also kind of what our students are up against, as well as just student engagement. We definitely see differences when a task is preferred for one student versus non-preferred, balance of individual needs with whole class instruction, and then the teacher pressure and education pressure of all the things that we're trying to get accomplished, right? So amen to that. I see a multiple of you multitasking right now, which you should be doing. That's also our students, right? So understanding that they might be able to do that in a different way that we might be able to do that. So maybe my type of attention for this task is one format and then students is a different, and it's okay that it kind of looks different. One thing to remind ourselves while teaching in the middle of our day is just what age-specific brain developmental kind of attention span students have. So if we're teaching kindergartners, right, we understand that they might be 5 years old. And so we kind of give 2 minutes per age level, right? So understanding that a 5-year-old is going to probably sustain their attention for about 10 minutes. Oftentimes I walk into a kindergarten or first grade classroom and they're sitting on the carpet for long stretches of time. And I can instantly see when the body movements are starting and that's the whole group is kind of losing that attention. You then often see someone getting frustrated, right? Like pay attention, but it's kind of those behaviors, communication tools, right? To just check ourselves and say, you know what? It's okay. I see we're done for the moment. We're going to come back to that. I see that the whole class needs something. So understanding that sometimes we do have to be flexible ourselves, even though we do have so much stress and pressure on ourselves as the educators. One thing I try to remind myself as well as everyone on our campus is modification and accommodations are made to support all humans, right? And not just students with IEPs and 504s. So we all have accommodations all the time, right? We know what staff members maybe need to stand in the back of the room. We know which staff members need to do a certain different thing, right? And so understanding that we're all human and we all need different things. One thing that's kind of amazing and cool about education today is it can look different. So for one part, we have whole body listening, which we all try to teach. Eyes on the speaker, sitting in chair with 4 legs, worksheet, paper, and pencil. But also in 2025 education, it could look like multitasking. We have cultural variations of what respect looks like, right? Eye contact doesn't always mean respect in some of our cultures. Understanding that people can sit in flexible seating and that technology and computers are accessible and that we can look at education and learning differently. So I'm going to kind of go quickly through some of these because they definitely are in our slides, but also we still have some case studies we would love for you guys to be able to go through. So understanding environmental strategies, making sure our classrooms kind of are optimal for all kind of learners. And it's okay that one needs this and one needs something else. Technology and tools, fidgets, timers, noise canceling headphones, visual schedules, definitely color-coded classroom supports, right? Providing organization, teaching them executive functioning skills, not just expecting them to like have it. It's okay that some do it a little differently. It's okay that this person has a red folder for this and a green folder for that. And kind of giving them the tools that can make them successful. Flexible seating options, we often think of the chairs like as flexible seating, but like lap weights, using clipboards or whiteboards are also kind of supportive tools. And then play is important for all kids. In my counseling room, we have a play kitchen. I will say my 5th graders play with that more than probably my kindergartners. So remembering that play is important for all of our kids. We often see multi-sensory options for students out on the playground, right? They're getting the stimulus of a lot of different things out on the playground. When they come in the classroom, they're losing a lot of those options for their brain to be successful and their attention spans to be kind of motivated. So one of our classrooms or a few of our classrooms, they do soft start morning program where their 4th graders come in and they play for the first 20 minutes of STEM bins. It is decreased behaviors, it is increased kind of socialism, and it allows for the class to be successful throughout the day, right? So kind of getting through our tasks in those attention spans because they've gotten all their wiggles out in those formats. Positive reinforcement we know is amazing, and we can definitely support on that as a counseling team. Progress monitoring, as simple of task as looking at one person's writing assignment compared to another and seeing that maybe their attention span kind of does look different. I really love the 5 different types of attention because I feel like I'm more so one in one way and different in another. So I feel like for myself, I'll probably keep that chart next to me just to kind of remind myself that it's okay, that it does look different and it's all of us kind of tracking that. And then communication techniques, definitely understanding that they can't read our mind just like we can't read theirs. Maybe a walk and talk for discussions. It doesn't always have to be discipline. And parent partnership is amazing. Just like everything, self-regulation, we do our best to help support them, just like Molly is saying, in our anxiety. Anxiety definitely impacts our attention, which also impacts our motivation. And that's going to be our next format. So we are going to move it on to Mr. Bibby for motivation.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Hillary. And so when we think of motivation, we've all been in the classroom and designed a lesson, or we've done like this amazing activity for a student and we spend hours working on it and we think it's engaging. And then 2 minutes in, we find that sometimes students aren't motivated to do it. And so it's one of those things where we really have to dive deep and understand what motivates students. And so there's 2 different types of motivation. The first is intrinsic, and that comes within the student, right? Hey, like, I really want to do well in class. This is something that is a personal interest of me. I'm really curious about this, or I really enjoy this. And then there's also extrinsic motivation as well. And that's really all about those rewards. Maybe it's grade-based, maybe it's just getting praise or other factors too. And so with this, we definitely want to create a balance. It shouldn't just be heavy on one. It's how do you find a mix of both? All right, and so some of the key theories of motivation, that's self-determination theory on the left. It emphasizes the importance of autonomy, competence, and relatedness in fostering motivation. And then if you look down below at those 3 bubbles, expectancy, can that student feel like they can actually do the task? Value, does the student even want to do the task? And then finally, how much time is it going to take me to do this task? And then that all goes into motivation. And it really can change over time. And it really goes back and forth. And so with these 3 factors, again, we want to make sure that we provide students with a correct set of choices and a sense of control. Because again, if students aren't feeling like they are in control or they feel like they have the power to make a decision, they're most likely not going to want to buy in. So again, you have to get them bought in and they have to be the ultimate drivers of that choice. Second is that competence piece, right? Really just being that cheerleader, being that supportive factor, making sure that students feel capable and successful in their tasks. You know your students the best. And so really ensuring them, you can do this, you got this, you're going to be successful, but then also making sure you're not setting those students up to fail, where it's really that balance where it's like, hey, I know you could do this and we're going to start small and we're going to work our way bigger and bigger. And then that final piece is really just that relationship piece. Every single individual in this room right now, we make connections with our students daily. And so again, in order for students to feel motivated, they have to feel a connection with you. They have to make sure that they feel trust and supported by you. Here are some key strategies to enhance motivation. There's 12 different things here. You want to make sure you use several of these, right? Like, hey, like, do students have choice? Is there quality feedback? Is it conversations that you're having with that student or with a set of students, and it's back and forth conversation? Really knowing how to use feedback. And then also being creative too. It's not a one size fits all. We know that every single student in our class or every single student that we interact with is different. Siblings are different. And so again, being that creative approach where it's like, hey, I can't just use this one strategy for all my class. I really have to pinpoint and see what my individual student strengths are. Then again, is it a reachable target? And then really embedding and building that self-esteem and growth mindset with that student. And again, being that cheerleader, being that supporter for them. And so when we break down student autonomy and self-motivation, the left-hand side is all about student-centered learning. So we're creating opportunities for students for them to feel like they can make choices about their learning activities and projects. We are providing a space for students to express their ideas or opinions. And so whether it's something where it's like we start with a morning meeting at first, or at the very end of the day, we have a little huddle and we just talk about, hey, like, what were some things that we really liked about this activity? Or, hey, what was your opinion? let's put it in the parking lot. Again, having students buy in and being a part of the class is massive. We also want to make sure we cultivate a classroom atmosphere where students feel confident in taking risks and learning from their mistakes. And again, it's okay to make mistakes. No one's perfect. But again, having those students feel like they could take risks and learn from failure, and in order to get better and better, that's important as well. And then again, modeling growth mindset and encouraging effort and perseverance. So we want to make sure that with these autonomy supportive teaching practices, we explain the purpose behind learning and how they can relate to student interests and goals. So again, like, why is this important? Why are we learning this? This is what's going to benefit you. This is why we're doing this. Also, having students have options in how they demonstrate their knowledge and understanding, right? You know, students today, especially in these last 5 years, are, you know, we're continuing to evolve in education. So having students have multiple options in learning is huge. And then providing challenges that require the student to think critically and come up with their own solution. And so on the right, we want to make sure that we create interest-based activities that are interest-based for them. We also have opportunities for self-reflection, allow students to reflect on that journey. That's huge. And then we also want to make sure we focus really heavily on the learning process as well, and we really utilize that feedback. And so here are just a mix of strategies. Again, we want to encourage curiosity. We want to provide choices in learning activities, and then setting up a class reward system. On that positive reinforcement side, we want to make sure we offer constructive feedback, and we also use encouraging words as well. And then we foster that sense of belonging. And so really in all of this put together, we encourage, we really put effort in, and it's not just about the results, it's about that relationship piece. All right, Molly, I'll kick it back to Molly. We're going to go through a couple case studies. We're going to read these out. Molly's going to read this first one, but after first different suggestions, if you have anything that you want to put in after this case study, you're like, oh, I think this is what I would do with this student, or hey, this is what someone on my team has done. We're going to have you put that in the chat after you read this case
study. Okay. And I just wanted to just share just really quick about the motivation. I once sat in on like a fishbowl situation where it was some high school students speaking about their experiences in school. And one girl simply said, in Mr. So-and-so's class, I do the work and I try because he likes me. But in Mr. Blah, blah, blah's class, he's not cool. He doesn't like me. And so I don't try. And it was just, to me, such a clear reminder of that relationship was what was making that only different for that student of her motivation was clearly if she thought the teacher liked her or not. So anyways, I just thought I would share that. So this little girl, Charlotte, she's a 7-year-old girl with a close supportive family who's described as anxious from birth. She's shy and reserved in kindergarten, but integrating well to first grade, began making friends and succeeding academically. She's complained several times of stomach aches that are worse in the morning and never present at night. She's missed 15 days of school because of the pain. When Charlotte does go to school, she has difficulty completing work independently. She frequently asks her teacher for reassurance. She tends to underperform on tests when her teacher knows she understands the material. Charlotte cannot tolerate her parents picking her up late during dismissal. She insists on her parents walking her to the classroom in the morning. Her need for constant reassurance and school absenteeism are frustrating and upsetting both her parents and her teacher. We'd love to hear some suggestions on little Charlotte here, who may seem familiar to a lot of you. I can think of quite a few Charlottes that I've known over the years. And I don't know if you want me to go to the next slide, Hillary, or just give it a second.
Yeah, just go ahead and put it in the chat. If you have some suggestions on how we can help Charlotte, feel free to drop that in the chat, and we'll go ahead and read some of those.
And one of the things I would say just is working with as an educator in schools is our goal isn't to cure a kid of their anxiety. We're not going to be able to talk them out of it. So really, what we're trying to do is to get them through it, provide them tools, provide them support. We know that if there is some generalized anxiety that's impacting, severe amount of their day, then we would also refer out to Caring Connections or to recommend the pediatrician. So although we don't want to reinforce anxiety, we also recognize that this isn't this isn't appropriate to be a treatment place. We're not providing therapy. We're really just trying to help them get through the day as successful as possible. So Okay, want me to go on to the next slide here? I'm
Yeah.
seeing some great ideas. Check in, check out, praise, um, baby steps. Definitely, we like to start off with baby steps a lot. The visuals, positive affirmations, reminders. I think having that where we set them up and kind of give them advanced knowledge of any kind of changes, if there's going to be if possible, a sub or a field trip, kind of giving that information ahead of time, giving even positive reinforcement and rewards. I know sometimes it can be hard when you feel like, why am I rewarding a student for being a student? But if that is something that is a motivator for them that they can feel good about, sometimes that makes a difference. If they know that working for a prize, that can help them kind of get through it. Even with attendance, we know that that's mainly parents' job, but if a student wants to be at school, they're going to nag their parents. They're going to encourage their parents. They're going to tell their parents, and they're going to be a little bit more agreeable in the morning. Let's see, giving her breaks, positive to think about positive thoughts, stuffies. Yeah, we have a lot of those kinds of tactile things. Giving breaks. Let's see, I'm trying to look through the chat here. Did I miss anything there, baby? Morning routine. We love a routine. We all do it. It makes us feel better.
I think acknowledging how many days she's also missed, right? So tapping into your attendance team, knowing that there is an admin team there to support and reach out to maybe why and how we can create that transition better for her.
Okay. Do we want to continue on or skip the last one?
Yeah. Well, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone for really inputting all your ideas in the chat. Really just using each other. And so we are going to skip the last one. We do have a copy of the slides at the very top, linked above. And then we also have a question form as well. The last piece of this is just resources. You do have access to all these slides again, and then we do have a feedback form. If we went through something and you want more information about, feel free to send a message. But thank you again. I know we kept you a minute longer, but a huge, huge, huge thank you to everyone who came today. I hope everyone has a great rest of your program Monday, and we look forward to seeing you guys later.
Thank you.